my next question is a follow-up on the virgin birth. And I really want to ask this question because I think it was earlier in the year, maybe it was last year. There was a movie that came out that was kind of popular. It was with Hugh Grant. I'm not sure how many people have seen it. It was called Heretic. And basically a couple Mormons come to his house. He invites them in and he starts not only refuting Mormonism, but he also, in his mind, refuting Christianity. And the movie is largely based on the argument, and you address it in your book, where critics claim that the virgin birth was borrowed from pagan mythology.
Right.
In the movie, the character, he specifically focuses on Mythras, I think is the name.
Oh, and they use that in the movie? You've got to be kidding.
Oh, yeah.
Oh my gosh. Oh, geez,
and this is a big Hollywood movie. So the unfortunate thing is it's being passed around and viewed by so many kids.
Well, let me address that.
Investigative research.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Honestly, that is really bad that they did that. This was popularized by the Da Vinci Code years ago by Dan Brown in his book, The Mythras. And here's the argument. They say, oh, Christianity just copied this idea of the virgin birth from Mythras. Mythras, get this. Mythras was born of a virgin on December the 25th. He had 12 disciples. He gave his life for world peace.
Right.
He what else did he do? He died and then he was resurrected in the end. And so Christianity just stole those ideas from Mythras. And when you look at it, you say, that's ridiculous. And here's why it's ridiculous. Number one, if you go back to the original mythology, what you find is Mythras was not born of a virgin. He emerged fully grown out of a rock, naked, wearing a hat. Now, unless you say the rock was a virgin, there was no virgin birth with Mythras. Secondly, he was born on December 25th. Well, so what? We don't know the date that Jesus was born. The Bible doesn't tell us the date that Jesus was born. We observe it on December 25th, but we don't know the date he was born. Third, he had 12 disciples. No, he didn't. According to one belief system, Mythras had one disciple. According to another system, he had two. Did he die for world peace? No, he was known for killing a bull. And then finally, was he resurrected? No, there's no account in the myth about him dying, therefore no account about him supposedly resurrected. So it just absolutely crumbles. And in my book, I look at the other allegations about other so-called mythological beings who were virgin born. And I go through them one by one. Alexander the Great, he was born of a virgin. No, he wasn't. His mother, Olympias, specifically rejected the story that he was born of a virgin. The Hindu god Krishna, he was born a virgin. No, he wasn't. His mother had 7 sons before she had Krishna. Buddha's, was born. No, he wasn't. Buddha's mom was married many years before Buddha was born. Dionysus, he was a god of fertility and wine. And the story is as Zeus, the imaginary god Zeus, impregnated a princess. Zeus's queen burned the fetus to a crisp, but Zeus rescued the fetus and sewed him into his thigh until he was born. That's not a virgin birth. It's ridiculous. Besides which, most of these myths occurred after Jesus was born. Zoroaster lived hundreds of years before Jesus, but the idea that his mom conceived him by drinking a sacred drink came 900 years after Jesus. So this idea that there's a parallel between the virgin birth of Jesus and these other mythological creatures is just crazy. And I do a whole chapter in my book about this stuff. I'm shocked, Donny, that anybody in recent years would use the Mythras. It's been known for years. I've written about that. I did a book on the Da Vinci Code many, many years ago and pointed all this out. So I'm shocked that they still use that. That's ridiculous.
Well, it's a shame. And like you said, I'm flabbergasted that Hollywood would still try and deceive audiences by pushing these easily debunked and countered arguments. Yep. And you really gave me a lot to think about when I was going through your book. I didn't know that about Alexander the Great, that was a belief. Zeus. So why do militant critics of Christianity then, Lee, in your opinion, why are they still repeating a lot of these arguments when you actually investigate the issue and look at the so-called similarities? They're not even there, but yet they so proudly and confidently say that they are.
I'll give you something that happened in the 1800s. In the 1800s, a bunch of German theologians started propagating this idea that Christianity was stolen from earlier mythology. And they popularized that back in the late 1800s. In the early 1900s, it became a foundational teaching in the Soviet Union, which was formed in 1919 or 1917. That was a teaching in the Soviet schools. Well, in the early 1900s, Christian scholars refuted it all and said, that's ridiculous. And they debunked the whole thing. And then in the late 1900s, the Da Vinci Code and other things are written, and they resurrected all of these things from the 1800s that have already been debunked, and they present them as being new. And so there was a scholar by the name of Ronald Nash, and he was an expert on this area. And he wrote a book called God and the Greeks, I believe is the title. And he wrote it about the year 1995, I'm guessing. And in the introduction, he says, I don't know why I'm writing this book about why Christianity is not taken from earlier mythology. This was debunked years ago, but I guess I got to do it again. And so that's what he wrote in his introduction. And he writes a whole book, again, documenting this stuff does not add up. So I would say to someone who's a skeptic, God bless you, man, find better arguments than this. You can do better than this.
Yeah, I spent a lot of time going through myths of the world.
Yeah,
there's a lot more problems there. They're not written from a literal historical narrative. The majority of them, like Christianity.
Yeah,
you might find three pagan, a plurality of gods, but you're not going to find a trinity. Yeah. And the entire biblical narrative of a sinful people in need of a savior, this God sacrificing himself for these ways, I don't know that you're going to find that. I haven't dove in very deep into that one, but typically you're going to find that these gods are participating in lewd lifestyles themselves. There's nothing that compares with Christianity all the way.
You're right. And these myths begin by saying once upon a time, in a misty time in the past. But what does the Bible say? Luke says, I carefully investigated everything from the beginning so I could write an orderly account about the certainty of what took place. This is historical. So you make a good point. They don't purport to be historical. They were just so stories that kind of explain things like lightning and thunder and the changing of the seasons. And you're right. The mythological gods were lusty. They were having sex with human women all the time. I mean, they were very anthropomorphic in that way. It's nothing to do with the biblical teachings.
Yeah, it says we do not follow cunning fables. There's many, even Jesus was insulted by the religious leaders. They said that he was born out of sinfulness at one point.